Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video I'm going to be covering my wish list for the F1 24 game as an F1 esports driver, and mainly focusing this video around the competitive elements of the game and stuff that I believe would be helping driver enjoyment when pushing the game to its absolute limit. So there's already been speculated that there's going to be an earlier F1 24 release than normal, coming out towards the end of May, when previous games have been coming out in June, July, August, this kind of time. So it's a really exciting period that possibly the game will be coming out much closer to the start of the actual F1 24 season. With that being said, I'm going to be getting into my first point, and the first point is going to be faster AI. Now, with the AI on F1 23, on multiple tracks, on pretty much every track on the calendar, an F1 esports driver, a competitive driver, can go upwards of over a second, sometimes some tracks 2 seconds faster than the AI, and it makes it really difficult to enjoy the offline elements of the game, to be honest, like this. When I try to do career mode, ultimately I'm having to put myself in the slowest car with no upgrade developments to even have a chance to battle with the AI. If I put myself in the midfield, in a midfield car against the AI, able to beat them straight away. And for me, I believe it would be much more enjoyable if the AI had much more challenge to it, and 110% AI, I should say, is actually the hardest AI that you could drive against. Even if they have to up the ranks again and make the 110, 190, 80% AI in a different relative pace zone, I think that would make it more enjoyable for at least me playing the game, and I imagine it would make it more enjoyable for other people playing the game as well, that the AI could be more challenging and thus more satisfying and rewarding if you're able to beat them. The next one has been talked about quite a lot in the F1 community, and that is getting rid of the 60 FPS glitch that has been featuring in multiple F1 game titles now, and that is quite simply that it's a glitch within the F1 game that it's faster to run 60 FPS compared to uncapped. I understand this will be a very difficult one for Codemasters and EA to fix, but it is on my wish list, and I would very much be very happy if we was able to get rid of the 60 FPS glitch. And leading on, it's going to be completely getting rid of drifting to be gaining time. Still on the F1 23 game, there is elements of sliding the car that is able to rotate you around slow speed corners faster, especially somewhere like turn 10 in Bahrain, and I think having a system that can be getting rid of this and making it that if you slide, you overheat the tyre and you lose the traction, would again make it more enjoyable and a bit more true to life in that element as well. With the drifting, it can feel a bit random and it can feel a bit fake, to be honest, sometimes. So with that, it takes away a bit of user experience, in my opinion, and not having that drifting there would definitely, at least for me, make it feel a bit more realistic and a bit more what I'm doing can correlate with what's happening with the car, and I can build upon that and have a bit better driving enjoyment as a natural result. My next point would be the ability to, well, promote competitive racing online a bit more, with better camera angles, with better detail of what the driver can be doing. We have really fantastic racing leagues what are really running at such a high level at the moment, and I would like for them to be able to have better ability to give themselves exposure, to be honest. I feel like if there was different camera angles that they could follow the car with, if there was trackside cameras, onboard cameras, a little bit more detail about what the driver is doing, I think that would be a really fantastic addition to the F1 game, and allowing leagues like PSGL, WOR, and many other leagues that I just don't have time to mention in this video. I think they'll be extremely grateful to have that ability to promote themselves in a higher level as well. With that being said, moving on to what will be the next point, and that's going to be getting rid, or making faster, of the double stack problem in the qualifying and in the race. If you haven't noticed already, there's a lot of time required to do a double stack in qualifying and in the race as well, whereas in real life, to give an estimate, you probably need about a 4-second gap between the cars to be able to get a double stack done efficiently in the race anyway. And in the F1 game, you're needing nearly 10 seconds, to be honest. And it really is making even qualifying difficult to do on an F1 esports level, because you have to wait so long for your teammate already to be pushed back into the garage before you can enter the pit lane. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time doing the animation, and the same kind of situation in the race. I think it makes it difficult to make your strategy on the safety car, because if one car boxes, then the second car is completely done. It has such a slow pit stop, and it makes it really an unenjoyable experience in that moment for something that is very frustrating for at least a competitive player to be seeing in that moment. Moving on to the next point, and that will be more ability for the driver to influence tyre deg, tyre temperatures, and anything that is happening with the grip of the car as it's degrading over a racing stint especially. At the moment, you have so many different driving styles, and I think that's wonderful to have many different ways of driving the car. But as you can see in real life, there are some driving techniques that allow you to eke more out of the tyre over a long racing stint, and I think that would be great to see in the F1 game as well, that drivers can be making more difference between how they can look after their tyre during a racing stint and naturally get an advantage or disadvantage by the way that they can be driving. Building on from that, I want to see brake dragging gone, to be honest. And I believe, okay, it can make the outlap for qualifying quite easy because you just sit with the brake pedal at 60-80% and your tyres are already warmed up. But again, it feels a bit artificial, and I really hope there could be a fix for this, because I really want to see on F1 24 like outlaps for qualifying under safety car as well, and in these scenarios that you have to keep the tyres a bit warmer, that we're not required to be holding the brake pedal at 60-80% to be getting the right tyre temperature. Again, I'm not a game designer, I'm not a coder, I don't know how to fix it, it's just on my wish list. And building on from that, what I think a lot of people would like to see anyway is Slipstream being less powerful. I think at the moment it's so easy to be following a car, and it becomes a really train of cars, to be honest. On multiple tracks you can be upwards of 7 tenths a lap faster by following in the DRS of another car, and what you just see is a lot of people waiting until the final lap of the race and then going for the overtake. I think it would be much nicer if Slipstream was reduced and ultimately made a scenario that we had to work more for the overtake, that is, and to be having a situation that leading a race is not such a disadvantage like it is at the moment. Engine temperature is also building on from this point, and I feel like for how close we are forced to follow other cars because of the slipstream effect of the game, I think the engine temperature has not been compensated for this, and within 2 laps of following a car, you can very easily have your engine overheating. Although I agree that the engine should be overheating at the distance that we're following another car at, as it would be in real life, because of the way that we're forced to be following other cars in the slipstream in this game, I feel like the engine overheating is something that takes away quite a lot of enjoyment from the process, because as soon as you're on P3 or P4 in a train, you're having to pull out of the slipstream consistently within 2 laps of being in that train of cars, and it just makes for me something that is so frustrating in a race, albeit that element is realistic, that you would overheat the engine that close behind a car in real life, but because of how forced we are to be that close to the car, I believe it would be more enjoyable for a user experience that the engine temperature can be compensated to allow for us to be this close to the car naturally anyway. Marbles is such a big topic of conversation and debate within the F1 23 game. First of all, I like the idea of marbles. I think they are a good addition to the game, and I think the next level is making them a bit more detailed to where the actual driver is racing and not having a predicted racing line. Kota is one of the best examples of this, that after 1-2 laps in Q1 and building on in Q2, Q3 and all the way throughout the race, the marbles are built up by where the AI is meant to be driving, and it makes for a really unnatural and feeling forced scenario for myself anyway, and I imagine a lot of other drivers, that they are forced into driving an unoptimal racing line to avoid marbles, and it becomes this game of trying to avoid the marbles rather than just trying to drive the game to its best ability. And you see on turn 3 at Spain, for example, the first lap of Q1, people always stay tight to the inside, but as marbles get developed, they keep on getting pushed and pushed and pushed towards the outside of the track. Although the marbles have a relatively, what I imagine to be realistic effect on the tyres, again, I have not driven a Formula 1 car with marbles on the track, so I don't know, to be honest, but using my imagination, what it can be like, it seems like a realistic representation of what the grip level would be, but I feel like just because the marbles are in unnatural places, it makes it a game of dodging landmines for the game, for the player I should say, rather than actually driving the track with best ability, and ultimately can make for a lot of frustration and take away from a bit of the user experience as well. Building on to what my final point in this video would be, another necessity to manage fuel load during the race. And what this is about is, at the moment, and especially in 50% races like F1 esports and many league races are ran, we basically put enough fuel in so we can go flat out from start to finish. And what I would like to see is fuel weight having more of an effect on lap time. And what I would ultimately love to see is it's faster to underfuel the car and to be managing the car by short shifting, lifting, coasting throughout the race than it is to put so much fuel in the car and just go flat out the whole way. I believe this would add another layer of strategic decisions by the driver engineer combination as well, and that would ultimately, in my opinion, allow strategic options in terms of overall in the race as well to be a bit more dynamic. And again, like I talked about with the tyres, I would just like to see the driver skill and the driver mentality in the actual race itself as well to be making more difference. I would love to see tyres be more driver dependent. I would like to see the fuel be able to be managed by the driver a bit better as well, because if you underfuel the car and you try to go for this lift and coast approach, especially in 50% races right now, you're just going to get mugged underneath the braking zone and you're going to be in a really bad and vulnerable position. And I would love, absolutely love to see a situation of underfueling the car and having to manage that throughout the race and work with your engineer, work with your pre-planned strategy options in the race to get through that race in the fastest way possible, rather than just putting fuel load and going foot to the floor for the whole race. With that all being said, post in the comments what you would like to see from F1 24 within your wish list. And with all of this, I'm very excited for F1 24. Will be my 14th game on the F1 Codemasters game cycle, and I'm buzzing to be continuing. 14 years is actually, I've been playing the F1 game longer than I've been alive, in fact. So, of course, it's a huge part of my life naturally now, and I'm excited to see what F1 24 can bring to the fold. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Brendon Leigh, and I'll catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao, ciao, bye bye.